Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Becca and welcome to a new weekend reading vlog. So last weekend I stayed in bed all weekend to kind of recover and let my back rest, and I ended up reading 4 books. So I want to try to kind of repeat that this weekend. My last day of work in the office was on Wednesday, and I don't go back into the office until the following Wednesday. I still have to telework, but just I don't have to go anywhere. So that's really nice. Today's Friday, by the way, Friday morning. I hope you have a nice cup of whatever. Like I said, today is Friday morning. I am currently reading a fantasy romance that I went on this whole rabbit hole down the interwebs in YouTube, Googling, Instagram, and whatnot, looking for recommendations because I'm in this mood to read fantasy romance. And I don't mean like I want to read a fantasy book that has romance in it. I want a romance novel that has a fantasy setting. And apparently that is very hard to find because I'm not coming up with options that appeal to me. I feel like where is all the fantasy that is not vampires? Because I don't want to read a vampire book right now or ever again. I don't know. Don't love vampire books anyway. So I started reading, and I'm almost finished, is A Promise of Fire by Amanda Bouchette. I'm 82% in, and I'm really liking it. It's so, like, the fantasy aspect of it is like Greek mythology and magic. The Greek mythology part is very strange. Like, I read a lot of books that are like retellings of Greek mythology, and this one is the weirdest one I've ever read because it's not our world. So it's a completely different world. And like they, you know, like the gods are real, like they come to Earth, although we haven't interacted. Well, I guess we kind of interacted with Poseidon in it. But those are like through visions kind of. So it's very strange. And then like there are certain people who have magic. They're called like the Magoi or the Majoi, whatever. So our main character is called the Kingmaker because she is kind of like a lie detector. But she also has like a shit ton of other powers that like she's just figuring out. Like, it's very interesting. I really like the main character because she's like gone through a lot in her life to the point where like she is a broken person, and she uses that as a coping mechanism to defend herself. So she comes off very sarcastic, and she's like very argumentative and blah blah blah. And so she's like very bad at like letting people in. So I feel like she's a good character viewpoint to read in this story, but like it's just the Greek mythology aspect of it is so strange. I don't know that I would have read this if I hadn't seen it on a bunch of like best fantasy romances because it's just weird. So anyway, so that's what I'm reading now. I'm also reading, but I don't know if I'll read it all this weekend, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I'm about halfway through. I'm really liking it. What else am I reading? Those are the 2 books that I'm currently focusing on. My workbook, if you're interested, I'm not going to read it this weekend, but it's The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I'm only like 50-ish pages in so far, and I'm really liking it, but that's beside the point because I'm not going to be reading it this weekend. So I wanted to download an audiobook, you know, just in case. I have a paint by number that I've been meaning to do, so I might work on that this weekend. So if I do that and I want to listen to an audiobook, I have Moon Called by Patricia Briggs, which is the first book in her like Shifter series, which I like a good Shifter story. I don't know, we'll see. And then I also have The Winner's Curse by Mary Rutkowski. That one is YA, so I don't know that it'll be priority to me because I kind of don't care, but I've heard this series is very romance heavy, so maybe that's what I'll want to read. I don't know. When I'm finished A Promise of Fire, I think I'm going to read one of the books that I've owned for a while now and I probably should read, or maybe I'll read an arc. I don't think so. I don't really want to read a light and fluffy romance. I want like a dark fantasy driven romance. Yes, A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair, and I think it's supposed to be a Hades Persephone retelling, but I've heard that one's really good, so I might read that. That would be the next one on my list. Or From Blood and Ash, but that book's like 700 pages, and I want to read a lot of books this weekend, so I need to pick something shorter than 700. And then I did pick up this book from my library. It is Cults, The Truth Behind the World's Most Notorious Cults by Nigel Cawthorne, and it's just like, it's got a ton of cults in here, and each of the chapter is on a specific cult, and they're about like 3 to 5 pages long, which is just what I need. The thing about like true crime and serial killers is I don't want to know. I don't want to know because I'll have nightmares. So I like having this like little bit of information, so it's just like what the cult believed in and what they did, and that's it. It's not really gonna go, I hope, too much into like gory detail, so we'll see. So yeah, that's what I'm reading. This clip is now 14 minutes long, so I'm gonna end it here because I have a meeting in like 10 minutes that I need to get ready for, and I'll see you later. Hi everyone, it is now 4:30. The day has flown by. I had a delicious mint chocolate chip milkshake for lunch, so definitely a healthy option there. And then I decided to go to Barnes & Noble with my cousin because why not? I wasn't intending to buy any books, but I saw this gorgeous, beautiful, amazing, beautiful, gorgeous, stunning copy of Jane Eyre, and I was like, I don't know. And then I saw that it was only $8.95, and I just couldn't pass it up, so I got this. Just looking at it, so I do feel like the camera's also not like really capturing the colors really that well. A gorgeous, gorgeous cover. So I also, when I was thinking about buying it, I was like, I'm pretty sure I already own a copy of Jane Eyre, but I didn't think it was like, I thought it was like one of the Barnes & Noble classics, so they're not like super pretty or anything, so I was okay with buying another copy of it. But when I got home and I just checked, and I actually have Wuthering Heights, so I'm so happy I didn't repurchase the novel. So I'm just so happy about this. And then to go with my theme of the weekend, my fantasy romance, I wanted like a mass market paperback. What I want right now is just steamy reads. So I picked up Dark Illusion by Christine Feehan. I don't think I've ever read any of her books, but I just kind of went on Goodreads and tried to look for like the highest rated book, and I think this one had like an over a 4.3, so I'm really excited for it. I think after I'm finished my current book, which after this clip I think I'm gonna sit down and read, I'm gonna start this one. A Successful Trip. And I didn't get any video clips of it, but I did get a photo, and I'll try to insert that here. Enjoy this beautiful crazy milkshake. Delicious. So that is what I've been doing. So now I think I'm going to sit and finish, or try to finish, the book that I'm currently reading and can't remember the title of. Getting super close to the end of my book. 92% I think it said when I looked. And of course, it's now 7 o'clock, so I'm having this virtual trivia night with my coworkers, so I have to stop reading, but of course I'm at the most like suspenseful part of the book. I'm gonna do that now. I'm really liking this book. I think I'll continue with the series because I have a feeling with a lot of like romance, it will be like a series, but each book is a different relationship, so I would be interested in reading the other relationships that I'm assuming are going to be the next books, but I'll have to look into it. Finally, I can just sit down and finish this book because there's like 10% left, and I really want to see how she wraps it all up in 10%. And let me tell you, she does not. The marker of a romance novel is that it ends and an HEA, a happily ever after. If it does not have an HEA, it is not a romance novel. It is a book that has romance in it. So I'm like really freaking pissed. Like, and none of the reviews that I read for this book mentioned that it just ended in the dumbest YA cliffhanger ever. Like, where you can't just read this book and be satisfied because there's like major plot points that haven't been wrapped up. So that's really annoying. And now I'm kind of just like, I don't know if I don't want to read the second book just because I'm upset with the people who suggested this and the author for doing this. I hate this so much. This is exactly what I would expect from an YA fantasy. I'm not happy about this. I still ended up giving the book 3 stars because I really liked the plot of the first book, and I liked the character development and the romance itself, even though it doesn't technically, I mean, I guess it kind of ends, like they decide to stay together, but like shit's gonna happen in the next book that might change that, you know? I can't. And I think right now I'll just go ahead and quickly talk about what this book, the plot of it, really is, because I don't think I really talked about it. So in this world, we're first introduced to the character Kat, and she is a performer at a circus. She tells fortunes, and one night at the circus there's a man who's kind of like keeping an eye on her, and she's like, what is this? And eventually he kidnaps her because he finds out that she is the kingmaker. She is a human lie detector, among other things. And so he and his family have just overthrown the current or the previous ruler of that kingdom, and his family is now ruling. And while like our main character Kat thinks that his family will do a good job and that it might be good for the world to have human rulers instead of magical rulers, she's kidnapped. You know, she doesn't want to go. As the novel moves forward, we learn more about Kat's past and why she was at the circus, why she decided to kind of give up her old identity and her family and whatnot so that she could, you know, be unknown, go throughout her life without people knowing that she's the kingmaker. And that's the basic premise of the plot. Now, this world is really interesting because, like I was saying earlier, it is a world that's not our world, and it's still ruled by the Greek gods. However, the people in this world are either, so there's the Majoi or the Magoi, who are people who have magic, and then the humans who don't have magic aren't normally rulers. And so the man who kidnaps our main character is, his family is a new ruler because they're human. But the other 2 kingdoms are ruled by people who have magic. And as far as we know, like, magic can come in like pretty much any form you can think of. Kat, you know, she's the soothsayer, and then you also find out she has other powers, which, not really a spoiler, like things like invisibility, you know, like stuff like that. And like in her, like the people who performed at the circus, there's a woman who can like do something with color. I have no idea what her power is, but it sounded really interesting. But so it's got that Greek mythology aspect in a different world where the people on the planet could also have magic. So it's very strange. Like I was saying earlier when I was like, I'm really excited because I think the next 2 books are going to be about, you know, other characters. I was wrong. They're still gonna focus on Kat, which is fine. I like her as a character, but her story is going to be dragged out, and this is the reason why I don't read YA fantasy. Because I hate series that drag out one character's story. This is why I like romance novels, because even if they're in a series and their characters are all the same, each book focuses on a different relationship. So I'm a little annoyed at this. The first book, good, but I hate the author for what she did in the end. The cliffhanger is so... It has been a minute since I updated. It is 1 o'clock on Saturday. This morning I listened to the first 20% of The Winner's Curse. Don't know how I feel about it yet. Kind of confused what it's supposed to be about. I didn't read the synopsis and I think I'm going to. So last night I started reading the first little bit of Dark Illusion by Christine Feehan, and it's pretty heavy on the world building. And since this is like it's not the first book in this series, I think she's just assuming that people probably have read the other books and that she doesn't have to go as in depth, so it's a little confusing, which I'm fine with. That's how it goes with romance sometimes, but I didn't feel like reading that right now, or last night anyway, so I picked up A Touch of Darkness, which is the Hades Persephone retelling. I think it's kind of like an indie romance, which sometimes they're a lot better in my opinion. So yeah, Touch of Darkness. I read chapter 1. It's very interesting because it takes place in the modern world, and so there's all of the gods, and you know, people know about them and they interact with humans. Hades is like a club owner. He has a lot of businesses. He's like known as the rich god because he has more money than the rest of the gods. Persephone is in college and she is keeping her identity a secret, so people know that Demeter, her mother, has a daughter, but they don't know that it's Persephone, so none of her friends know that she's a god. So that's pretty interesting. I'm really interested to see how long she can keep that a secret, but right now the first chapter is just building it, and I think it's really funny so far because, you know, if you don't know anything about like Greek mythology, Persephone is the goddess of the spring, and when she started college, because that's where she is now in this book, her major was botany or something related to plants. I don't remember, but she changed it to journalism, and her mother was of course angry. So I really liked that first chapter, so I think I'm going to eat my lunch and read more of A Touch of Darkness. I wanted to do a little book haul. This is kind of just a beginning of the year book haul that I haven't put into a video yet, so I'm just like, where can I put this? So I have seen a ton of trailers for this series and it looks so good, even though I'm kind of like over vampires, but you know, Matthew Good as a vampire, need I say more? So I picked up A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. This has been on my radar for a very long time. Before seeing the trailers for the show and seeing other people get really into this, I had heard that it wasn't that good, so I'm kind of surprised by all of the hype that it's getting right now. It's another one of those, you know, fantasy romances, so that is what I'm here for, and I'm excited to read this eventually. The next book that I got is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, and this is the first book in the Broken Earth trilogy. I don't know if this book won the Hugo Award, but N.K. Jemisin is a Hugo Award winner. I don't really know much about it, just that everyone I know who's read it loves it. It sounds like a apocalypse or after apocalypse type of novel, so I'm very interested in reading that. These books are so long, 500 pages. The next book that I got is Lovely War by Julie Berry. This was put on my radar by Anne Bogle from Modern Mrs. Darcy. She added it to her summer reading guide in 2020, and I had gotten the library book out, but I never read it. And this is World War II historical fiction, but this has a twist that it's being told by the goddess Aphrodite, and she must spin the tale or face judgment or mount Olympus. It's filled with hope and heartbreak, prejudice and passion, and reveals that though war is a formidable force, it's no match for the transcendent power of love. So I'm really excited to read this. Again, eventually. Also, this one is also a very long book. Next, Lore by Alexandra Bracken. A very interesting premise that I feel like I've tried to describe multiple times and it still kind of is confusing to me. So I got the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, and it has this little pamphlet in the back that's annotations, I think, from the author. I'm really excited to read this, but also really scared because I love the cover so much and I'm worried that it's gonna let me down. And then in that Barnes & Noble trip, I also picked up Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. I think this is the only one that I don't own. And you know, my options were pay $5.99 for shipping or something like that, or pay an extra $7 to be over their threshold to get free shipping. So I'm just like, I might as well just buy another book, you know? And then for my book of the month picks for February, I decided to pick up The Kindest Lie by Nancy Johnson. This book is definitely one of my most anticipated books of the year for literary fiction. I think it's going to be very interesting, and I think it's going to be a very like hard-hitting but definitely necessary novel. And the author, interesting, she's a journalist at CBS and ABC. And then I had an extra credit because somebody used my link and I decided to pick up The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. This was a pick, this came out last year, right? 2020? Yeah, so this was one of the picks from last year when I wasn't subscribing to Book of the Month, and I really want to read it, and I had borrowed it from my library, ended up taking it back as well. So this is a fantasy novel where the boroughs of New York are basically the characters. That is my book haul. Really excited for a lot of those books. And you know, do you ever feel like when you're reading a book but you pick up another one just to talk about it and then you're just like, but now I need to read that book? I feel this way about all of them. Now I'm gonna try to get comfy and get to reading A Touch of Darkness, which I think, yeah, so I read the next chapter, so I've only read one chapter since the last time I talked to you, but that I'm at 10%, so I might be able to finish this tonight. We'll see. Good morning, everyone. I did not end up updating last night when I stopped reading, but I ended up getting to 76% of A Touch of Darkness, so I'm gonna finish that today. And then I also got a box from Target. I put in an order on Thursday because I was buying a gift, and they were having a sale, like buy 2 movies, books, tech type of things, get 1 free. So I was like, okay, well, might as well do that because I've been really needing a reading light. I used to have one that was absolutely amazing, and this one looks like it's very similar and it's gonna be good, so I'm excited about that. And then I bought Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi, and I've been really wanting to pick this up. It's gigantic. I feel like I'm gonna feel like I'm in school with this, and do not get me wrong, I'm excited about that. So it's the definitive history of racist ideas in America, and I think that I'm gonna enjoy some homework. But I think it's going to be a good read and really be a great resource if I ever need to have an argument with the older people in my family. You know? This being an indie romance, I have a feeling it's going to end with a huge cliffhanger, which I'm also not happy about that, but I am liking the story so much that it's not going to bother me. At this point, what has happened in the very beginning of the book, Persephone goes to a club that Hades owns and ends up getting into a game with him, and she doesn't at first realize that he's Hades, and they pretty much like strike up a bargain that if he wins, she has to create life in the underworld within 6 months, and he does end up winning. So that's like the basic plot, but it's also about like Persephone trying to get away from like the I don't even know what to call it. The severe protectiveness of her mother. Like, her mother is terrible. And then her and Hades having this attraction and kind of her being like, no, this isn't a good thing. But like, you can tell Hades is just like so in love with her. OLYMPUS, if you don't know, is a webcomic. I read it on Webtoons, I think. I don't know. I'll put the link in the description box. It's so good. So good. If you're a Hades and Persephone fan, I highly recommend it. It's fantastic. It's been going on for a while now, but the episode that was updated last night was so perfect. It's great timing for what I was reading at the times. I don't have a lot of plans for today, just to finish this book. I want to read a couple of graphic novels. Oh, I don't think I mentioned this yesterday. I have been going through this, I don't know, just been wasting all my time, but I love it. Going through every app that I use for reading and like cataloging the books I own or the books that I want to read. So on the Kindle app and the Nook app, I'm going through the ebooks that I own and like putting them in shelves. And it's so satisfying. And then on Libby, I knew that they had this feature for a long time, but I've never used it. But I've seen, like, I've heard a couple of people talk about it, about like how you can tag books on Libby, books that you want to read or even books that you've read, and you can give ratings to them or whatever. And so like I just went through every category on Libby and just like, oh, I want to read that and that and that and that, and I might not read it on Libby, but I feel like it's nice to have on that. I'm just trying to find new ways to get rid of Goodreads, you know? And so far, this thing that I'm doing, I am like separating all of them into genres. It's so fun. The 20% of The Winter's Curse that I read yesterday was me sitting there doing that. So good morning. I hope you're having or will have a wonderful Sunday. I need to stop right here, and this book, I'm pretty sure it's an indie romance. This book has tackled the specific themes that many authors give to a Hades and Persephone retelling better than any other book I've ever read. OLYMPUS is doing a great job as well, but the author of that is adding in different things that aren't usually seen in a Hades Persephone retelling, which is fine, great, wonderful. But this one is just, so I don't know, I'm not gonna call this a spoiler. So, you know, Hades is the god of the underworld, and so he's like dealing with souls a lot, and Persephone is learning that he is dealing with them in a more positive manner than she and a lot of the other people of the world would guess. So she wonders why he doesn't spend more time with the souls when they're in the underworld, when they're like celebrating him. So she says Hades does so much for his souls except live alongside them. He told her that he didn't feel worthy of doing so, and she asked Thanatos why, and he says that Hades regrets not always being so generous. I feel like this is such a good retelling of Hades because it's not just about, you know, him being a god of the underworld, but also it like humanizes him, I think. So I'm just really liking this book. I just finished A Touch of Darkness, and it was so good. I loved it so much. I am very happy that the ending was pretty conclusive. There are more books in this series, so I was afraid that it was going to end on like a really stupid cliffhanger where the characters are just completely like not together and blah blah blah, but no, it ended really good. It was a happy ending, and so I'm not sure if I want to continue with the series, just because when it's a series about the same couple and it's like 4 books long, I think there's just so much added drama, and I don't care for that. So I'm thinking I'm not going to continue right now with the series. I might in the future, but I don't really care to read more. Also, I wonder, because they're independently published, I don't know if I could get the next ones at my library. So let's see. Don't think so. Sometimes we do have indie authors. I'm not seeing them, so I probably would have to buy them, and I'm broke right now, so I'm not gonna continue with the series as of yet. But yeah, I really loved it. The ending was perfect. I really love Persephone's character. I feel like the author did a very good job of writing a modern retelling, and Persephone being like a modern woman who doesn't take shit from anyone. And it just made me so happy, like when things happened, like if she was being like harassed by someone, or there's a part where someone loses their job and this person blames Persephone for it, and she's like, no, it is your fault. So I I just felt like her character was very well done in a modern way, and it was just, loved it. And then with Hades' character, since it's like told from Persephone's perspective, we don't see as much growth with Hades because we don't know what's going through his head. But I really did enjoy the relationship. And then with, like, this was probably the worst Persephone Demeter relationship that I've ever read. Like, her mother wants to keep her in a greenhouse for her entire life, and her being a goddess would be forever. She reminds me of those, you know, those movies or whatever with children who are sick and their parents or mother, mostly a single mother, takes care of them, and then you find out, like, the big twist of the movie is that the kid is not sick and the mother just has Munchausen's by proxy. That's exactly the vibe that I got from Demeter. Like, she needs some help. So yeah, that was the worst that I've ever read, but I feel like it was handled very well with Persephone and how she handled it. So I just feel like this book wrapped everything up in a great way that I have no interest at the moment in reading the next books. I don't want to hear any more drama, although I really would like to see, like, Persephone and her life with Hades. If you don't know anything about the original Persephone and Hades Greek myth, is that they are married, and I believe that it's characterized as like a forced marriage where Hades is like a villain and Persephone doesn't want to be married to him, and so she spends 6 months of the year in the underworld and 6 months of the year with her mother Demeter, because she's the goddess of spring, so she has to do spring, you know? So that's the, like, original tale. And with the end of this book, Hades is like, I want you to be the queen of the underworld. I want you to be there with me and my people. But I know that you have a life that you want to live as a journalist. So half here, half there. And so I really liked how that was done, and how she didn't end up having to, like, stay 6 months of the year with her mother because her mother is toxic. And also because I'm going to keep talking about OLYMPUS, but I really think you should check it out. But it's the way that it's illustrated, that the gods are all different colors. So Persephone is pink and Hades is blue. Demeter is green. Let's see, other gods. I think Apollo and Artemis, who are twins, are purple. Don't remember. I think Hermes is red. So, like, they're all just different colors, and it's super fun. And so, like, while I'm reading this book, that's what I'm picturing. Like, I'm picturing Persephone at least having pink hair, and then, like, they were describing her as blonde, and I was like, no, she has pink hair. So it was really fun. I think this book was very well written for an indie romance, which is, I shouldn't say indie romances are not good, because they obviously are, and sometimes they're better than regular romances, but I just feel like this one was so good. I gave it 5 stars. If you can't tell from me blabbering about it, I really liked it. So highly recommend if you like Greek retellings and some steamy romance. I finally figured out what I want to read. I'm gonna read Moon Called by Patricia Briggs. It's the first book, I think, ever that she wrote? I don't know. The first book in her Shifter series that is called something. But that's what I'm going to read, but my tablet needs to charge for a little bit. I'm actually going to turn it off so it'll charge faster. So while I am waiting for that to charge, I think I'm just going to clean up a little bit and try to get it organized. Alright friends, it is now 5 o'clock and I filed my taxes. Let me tell you, I hate, like, I used to not mind. Like, I was just like, whatever, it's fine, it's okay. And I feel like every year it just gets a little bit more complicated. So at least I don't owe money like I did last year. Let's just leave it at that. I got caught up in my reading journal, and then I have started my bullet journal spread for this upcoming week. My tablet is at, wait for it, 79%. So I'm gonna go ahead and unplug it now and get to reading. Like I said, am going to start Moon Called by Patricia Briggs. Okay, it is the first book in the Mercy Thompson series. Mercedes Thompson, aka Mercy, is a talented Volkswagen mechanic living in the Tri-Cities area of Washington. She also happens to be a walker, a magical being with the power to shift into a coyote at will. And Mercy's next door neighbor is a werewolf. Her former boss is a gremlin, and she's fixing a bus for a vampire. This is the world of Mercy Thompson, one that looks a lot like ours, but is populated by those things that go bump in the night. And Mercy's connection to those things is about to get her into some serious hot water. Yes, I'm here for it. I love a good shifter story. Let's just talk about how the fact that you Google fantasy romance and you're gonna get Twilight and every other vampire romance there is. I think we have enough vampire romances. Can we just quit it and just focus on werewolves because they're so much better? I actually don't know how much romance is in this book. Yeah, it's still considered a romance. I think it's closer to an urban fantasy though, so I'm hoping that there's some steamy scenes in this, because if there's not, I'm not gonna read the rest of the series. Wait, it also has a gentle romantic build. Damn it. I don't know if I want to read it now. It's not even 300 pages. Okay, fine. I'm gonna read it. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know if I'll finish it today or tomorrow, but we'll see what happens, so stay tuned. Good morning, everyone. It is Monday morning. So I have today off, and I'm going to see a friend today, so I won't be reading much. Last night, I ended up reading, I think, the first 60 pages of Moon Called. And to be honest, I'm not really into it that much. It's definitely more urban fantasy than fantasy romance. And also the writing is not very good, which I mean, like, it's her first book. She's written so many other books, so I'm sure they've gotten a lot better. So I think I'm going to DNF for now. I'll eventually pick it up again sometime in the future. Also, my copy of A Court of Silver Flames shipped this morning. I'm so excited. I can't wait to read it. I feel like that is the reason why I'm into fantasy romance so much, because I'm just gearing up to read A Court of Silver Flames. I can't wait for it. If you have any recommendations for indie fantasy romance or just good fantasy romances that are not popular, please let me know, because it's a struggle trying to find what to read. Okay, I think I've decided. It's not a novella, but it's under 300 pages, so I think I'm gonna go for it. And I think I'm gonna read Radiance by Grace Draven. Looking on Goodreads, both Chandler Ainsley and Riley Marie have rated it 5 stars. And I definitely trust their recommendations, so I think this is gonna be the one I go with. Felicia Day gave Master of Crows 5 stars, so maybe I should read it. Hi everyone, I am back from my friends. I'm gonna start reading Radiance again, and so far I'm liking the setup, even though I haven't gotten really far into it. It's just about an arranged marriage so far, and talking about the I don't know if they said it already, but the kind of creature, paranormal type of thing that the human girl is being married to. Fae, fairy, whatever. Who knows what it is. But anyway, so that's all I've got for reading so far. So, hey everyone, I am in bed and I have been reading Radiance for the last hour, and I'm also watching. I have like a read with me on from Mary Among Stories. Hers was just in the search when I just search read with me, so that's what I have on. But I wanted to update about Radiance as I've got more of a feel for what is going on and what the story is about. So it's basically an arranged marriage between a human, and they are called Kai. I don't remember any like explanation of what they're supposed to be. They're just humanoid magical people who live in the same world. And they are like characterized with like the grayish skin tone, have like light colored hair, like white hair, or I'm guessing black, and their eyes are kind of like, instead of having whites like our eyes do, are like black. So in the beginning it's really funny because before they get married, they meet each other in the garden of the palace, and they don't know who each other is. They don't know that like this is their spouse, and so they're talking to each other, and it's really funny because he or I think she asks him like, will your prince find me attractive or pretty or whatever, and he was like, no, you're ugly. and then he asks if like she thinks that he's handsome, and she's like, you're the stuff of nightmares. So it's really funny. And I think it's funny because Kai, not what's his name, the love interest is Brishan, and he keeps like calling her smile like a horse's smile to compare her to a horse, which is really funny. And then she, every time he smiles, like she wants to scream because she finds it scary. But it's like, it's not like terrifying, it's just, it's very lighthearted, and they are already becoming accustomed to each other's appearances, so it's just kind of funny. And now she, the human wife, they are married. They are traveling back to his kingdom. The only issue I'm having is that I don't find it very believable how friendly they are. Like, I could imagine like royals accepting their responsibility and their duty to like forge alliances with other kingdoms and just being very cordial and respectful in that way, but I can't imagine that they would be super friendly. Like, they act as if they are friends already, and they've only known each other for like a couple of days now. So I'm finding that to be a little unbelievable. As far as we know, like, this is the first human and Kai marriage, so that would mean that like they don't know as much about each other's cultures, and yet, and for specific reasons, like you would keep your culture a secret from like who your enemy may be, right? And so I'm kind of finding it a little surprising that he's so open with her, talking about like their culture before she even gets to the kingdom. I find it very strange that they're so open with one another, because like, you just meet somebody and then you're immediately married, and then a couple of days later you're on the road to another kingdom, and like they just talk so openly, and I just feel like that's not realistic at all. But then again, this is a fantasy romance novel where there are magical creatures, so it doesn't have to be what I expect, or what I expect to be realistic, because the story itself is not a real story. So anyway, that's where I'm at. But I'm really enjoying it. I like the storytelling. The writing is decent so far, so we will see. Though I probably won't update you again until the morning. So good night. Happy Tuesday, everyone. It is about 11 o'clock. And I just finished Radiance by Grace Draven, and I'm giving this book 3 stars. I really enjoyed it. I felt like it was very fast-paced. The fantasy aspect was really like just really good, that I didn't want to stop reading it, which is why I stayed up so late last night reading. But I feel like our 2 main characters, we don't know anything about them. They, as a couple, I feel like we have learned a lot about how they work well together and whatnot. But as individuals, I don't feel like we know a single thing about them. So I'm a little bit disappointed in character development, and I am not one of those people who needs a character-driven story. Like, I prefer plot-driven, because if a book has 0 plot, then I won't like it at all. So that's really my only complaint. I feel like we know nothing about. I am interested in continuing the series. The ending was not what I was expecting. There's definitely going to be, I think, a heavier fantasy focus on the second book. Well, I read the next book probably, but not anytime soon. I'm not really that worried about it right now, and I feel like that kind of just sums up this this video as a whole. Of the 3 books that I read, I don't think I really care to read the next book anytime soon at all. So this is where I'm going to wrap up my vlog for this weekend. I'm really happy that I read these romances. I think they were just the right thing to read right now, as I was looking for some fantasy romances to hold me over until A Court of Silver Flames. I'm really excited for it, and I think this weekend was a great way to just try to be a little patient for it, but still find something that I was looking for. Of the 3 romances that I read this weekend, A Touch of Darkness was definitely my favorite. I think it was the most well done. The I think they were written well. A Touch of Darkness was the perfect Persephone Hades retelling for me. I loved it so much. So I'm really happy that I found it and that I have a series to go back to if I want to. I haven't decided yet, but yeah, definitely my favorite one was A Touch of Darkness, and then my least favorite one was A Promise of Fire, just because the ending still, as I think about it, still pisses me off. So yeah, kind of really still upset about that. But anyway, had a great weekend reading some fantasy romance, some indie fantasy romance as well. I'm curious if you have any recommended indie authors or romance authors if you read indie romance, because sometimes they're just so much better than regular, like traditionally published romances. But anyway, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in a new video soon. Bye!